Hello, and welcome to Connecting with Kathleen. We're a show that highlights local nonprofits trying to bring you the information of services available in our valley. And today we're lucky to have Becky Gordon, Executive Director of A Way Out. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so happy, excited to have you here. I'd love to talk about A Way Out.
Yes.
If you could take some time to talk about the mission, vision, some of the outcomes, what you guys as an organization are attempting to do.
Sure. So my name's Becky Gordon, like she said. I've been with the organization for about 2.5 years, and so I came on with about 10 years experience in the addiction field, really more in the for-profit field, but had always reached out to A Way Out, indirectly getting to know Liz Means that way, who was the previous director, and always used it as a resource for our families and individuals struggling with addiction who simply don't have the means to pay for it. And so it really was that relationship and how that grew that got me to eventually take this position because Liz wanted to retire. So I was pretty honored to be asked to come run this organization. It's something I'm very, very close to and passionate about. And really what A Way Out has meant to me throughout the years in my field has just been a way out, right? For these people who struggle with addiction, which is just rampant in our communities. So the mission of A Way Out is to provide individuals and families who are struggling with drugs and alcohol access to treatment and recovery support regardless of an ability to pay. That's really the mission. But I think the misunderstanding about A Way Out is that people think, okay, no money, no insurance is the only time that you call A Way Out, and that's just not true. It's really anybody struggling with substance abuse can call A Way Out and get referrals to treatment centers, to maybe other people connected in the field. I have been in the industry for a long time, and so some of the times families don't need financial support, but they just need to go in the right direction. And I always tell people, don't Google anything.
Right, because I know as a private clinician, I'll often reach out because I don't know the treatment centers.
Yeah.
And my experience with you guys is that you know even where they are and a good fit and where the openings are.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it changes, right? Treatment centers get bought out, clinical teams leave, they shift, they change. And so if a treatment center has been known in the past to be good, it's always worth making a phone call or two to make sure, hey, this family is reaching out and thinking about this center. Is it still good? Is that clinical director that I know still there? Are they still doing that trauma work? Are they still really handling those co-occurring clients at the level we need them to be confident in that referral? So that's something that we offer to the community that I just don't think people realize.
Right.
And then we help people with insurance find placement in that way, which places would take your insurance, what that would look like with co-pays, what that looks like for, I guess, out-of-pocket max, just kind of like how could A Way Out help if insurance pays for treatment? Can we do in IOP and sober living after? So that's another way that we've helped out a lot. We even use Medicaid insurance. We might get them into treatment. Again, finding the right Medicaid facility, not just getting them into treatment to get them into treatment, but placing them in an appropriate Medicaid facility and then doing more sober living and IOP, which is intensive outpatient scholarships on the back end, putting together 4 to 5 months of care, which is really important.
That is, because families are lost. And the insurance game, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Years ago, they didn't take insurance. So
yeah.
How many are taking insurance now? How many programs out there?
Well, they do take insurance. I would say a lot of them are becoming in-network, but that doesn't mean that they'll cover the full 30 days. And so you need to know the right questions to ask. Because otherwise what happens is you go on your insurance and you think they're paying for it, and in about 14 to 17 days, they may say insurance is done. You need to either start paying cash pay or you're done. And then people are down in Denver or down around wherever they end up going to treatment, and they're out on the streets, on their own without a plan. And so those are the questions that we need to ask before people enter treatment with insurance. What does that look like? Through A Way Out, we can use insurance and really have that conversation of, will it cover the full 30 days? What's the plan if it doesn't? How can we get ahead of that before they enter so that they can just focus on their recovery when they're there and not financials, which is so stressful.
It is stressful. And we don't want someone to go to treatment and come out and be bankrupt.
Right. Right. Financial trauma is really real when it comes to treatment. And so we do get really creative when it comes to using insurance and then complementing it with a scholarship. And then there's people who, so I'll back myself up and just tell you about the process with the way out.
That would be great.
When you call the way out, a lot of our referrals come in from clinicians. A lot of the hospitals, the detoxes, even jail. We get a lot of applications because these people have found out about a way out and they've made that first call, which I always highly recommend, because when clients can call and we can plant that seed of like, hey, we're here. And if you're struggling, you might not be ready today, but when you are, here's how we help. Here's a way out. Here's what's in your back pocket should you need it. And a lot of people, I think, listen to that and go, oh,
Right.
that's scary. That's awesome that it's available. I just don't know. And then, like I said, they end up in the hospital again. They have that other consequence. They're in jail. Their spouse wants to leave. There's divorce on the table. They lose a job, what have you, whatever happens, to kind of hit that bottom. And that's when they call back and go, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for what you just talked about. I can't afford treatment and I do want to go. And that's, again, which we really encourage is just have people call.
And that's nice to know, because I've hesitated, like, I don't think they're ready,
Yeah.
but if they could call, it might help them get more ready.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
good to know.
And I'm in recovery myself, and
Okay.
I'm happy to be open about that and share. And especially with the people who call, I can identify with them, and I can also, I'm a loved one, I'm a family member of people who struggle. So whether it's a mom, a spouse, a sister, or the client themselves, just calling to understand, like, hey, we understand addiction. I get both sides. Kim, my clinical director, is amazing. She's been doing this with A Way Out for about 7 years. So she's dialed, maybe longer than 7 years, but she's dialed in to the services and the options. And so again, just letting people know, like, hey, you're not alone going through this.
Right.
We're here to help. This is literally all we do. What we do has stayed real focused, and we'll talk about that later, but we really don't, try to add services or try to grow any more than what we do. We try to stay real focused on our offer to the community to fill those gaps, work with our partners, and really identify how we can collaborate more and more, like we were just talking about
Right.
before the show.
Right. And, I think for people calling in, and if you're the front line, that's amazing, because you are so kind and welcoming. And there's so much shame involved with addictions. And, we all know we're trying to destigmatize that.
Yes.
But to have them go to somebody who you're comfortable to talk to.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I hope so, because it is not the guy under the bridge with the paper bag. It's the mom. It's the
Yeah.
stay-at-home mom. It's the, very highly successful business people, people with addiction walk at all levels, right? At all economic levels. And so we've got the problem, no matter who you are and where you live, it's all over, it's rampant. And especially in our little mountain towns, it's isolating, which is a huge symptom of addiction. Isolating, and coping and surviving this stressful economy, and letting people know, like, you're just surviving. You're just trying to get through this thing called life, and life's kind of hard right now for everyone.
Yes.
And so shifting that, it's okay. This is what everyone's doing. Like, this all fell apart. I can't tell you, daily I get calls of like, I don't know, I don't think it was that bad, but since COVID, I just can't turn it back around.
Yes.
I can't get back to where I was pre-pandemic. And so just letting people know, yep, I get it. Like, I get these calls every day. Like, let me tell you what we can do. Let me tell you what's out there. Let me tell you how common this is.
Right.
And that it's curable or fixable, or that there is something you can do about it.
Exactly. Right. When I talk with clients, I say, I don't know of any person who took their first drink and said, I can't wait to be an alcoholic, or, your first hit of a drug, I can't wait to be addicted. That it is a coping mechanism for people. That can become an addiction.
Right, and it's so socially accepted that it's kind of hard to understand, which is really the talk about the stigma, I think, is it's very interesting, because it's so socially accepted, and we don't want to talk about alcohol being bad, because alcohol is not bad, but it's just how common and I think how popular it becomes. It's served on every corner. There's liquor stores everywhere, and it's just so, it's a part of every event, and it just doesn't need to be. And not that it's bad, but there's so many people that have that gene and that will have that addictive personality.
Yeah, and I work with Hospitality Matters, free support group to people in that industry, but we were talking about, could we get the bars to offer more mocktails?
Yes.
And kind of the inside line on that is, well, they're very hard, time consuming, and we don't make money on them, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
Because I always ask for a mocktail.
Yeah, well, you do see more mocktail menus
It's
coming
getting
out.
better,
You do see sober bars, you popping up. I think that it is out there, and it is becoming more. I was just talking with a woman yesterday who's actually in like AA programs up here, and it's really interesting to me that like the sober community in this valley is that the medium age is becoming lower. Is 30, 40-year-olds instead of the older crowd. So it is good, and it's it's interesting to see those community healing groups grow. There's so many different groups, and really community healing is what we advise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, talk some about your programs.
So at A Way Out, what we're most known for is the scholarshiping to treatment.
Right.
So again, as I just mentioned, that's not the only time to call. Anybody with questions about substance use, where to go, what kind of resources are available is a really positive call for A Way Out. But then it's our application process, which is most of our partners have. I would really recommend, if you don't know about A Way Out, to call the main line, which is me, typically. And that's when I can educate you about A Way Out. I can send the application. We try to talk to clients before they get the application. But our partners, our hospitals, our local clinicians, people who really know A Way Out, again, we started in 2013, so there's people who have been referring for a long time. They have our application, and they just have clients fill it out and send it. Okay. Our application consists of really basic information of everything you'd think of. Have you been to treatment before? Any diagnoses mental health-wise? Are you in trouble legally? Like, what does your addiction look like right now? The severity of it, we can usually get. And then we do ask everybody to financially participate. So while all of our services are free, once we ask people to start financially participating, whether it's $5 or $5,000, we got our results improved. So if people are out there buying drugs or alcohol and have the means to do that, we believe that you could have a little bit.
Well, can put some skin in the game.
Yeah, put some skin in the game when it comes to your treatment. And so that is on there. We do ask for financial documentation through tax returns. And then not everybody has tax returns. I do have to mention that. And we work with people in so many different ways to financially document where they are. And I'll get into that when they call. Because we have our homeless people who, of course, don't have much. And so I just want to emphasize that please still call. And then we have everyone write a letter as to why they want to get help now. So our only two requirements are that you've lived in our service area, which is Pitkin, Eagle, Garfield, or Summit County for 6 months or longer. That used to be a year. Now it's 6 months. And that you have a strong desire to get sober, abstinent, clean, or battle your addiction. And so with those two things, and so the letter that they write is just a few sentences as to, I've been doing this long enough, or I'm scared, or this is happening in my life. I'm really motivated right now. Just real simple. You can imagine the letters we get. They're tear jerkers every time. And so with those three pieces, you send them to Kim Reel, our clinical director, who's kim@awayout.org. It's all on the application. And then she calls. She sets up an assessment with herself or one of our clinicians, depending on where they are. And then at the end of that assessment, we make a plan. And so sometimes they're going home from that assessment, and they're packing their bags, and they're leaving for treatment within 72 hours. So 24 to 72 hours is like typically the fastest. Otherwise, it's about 3 to 5 days. But we bypass those Medicaid lines if people need to go and they can't wait. Because we all know that window when someone says, I'm ready, can only be a small window sometimes. And so we can move really quickly. I'm still so impressed with how quickly A Way Out has gotten some people.
It is so fast.
Yeah, and door to door. Sometimes our people in the hospitals go straight from the hospital home to get a bag and down on their way to treatment in Denver. So that's what we're most known for, is really filling those gaps. And so to our partners, ideally we want to send them to treatment and then we bring them back. And while we do stay in touch for a year, we give them back to their referring partners, like for that ongoing IOP, or if it was a clinician, we want them to go back and see that clinician post-treatment. And then we follow along and just kind of make sure, are you going to your community meetings? Are you meeting with that therapist? Did you find work? Do you need help with your resume? Like all that stuff. And I believe
that extra support
Yeah.
afterwards is so crucial. And also I'm thinking, I've had clients who, I want to go to treatment, but I can't afford it because if I can't pay my rent the month that I'm gone, I won't have a place to come back to.
Right.
And the fact that there's some scholarship money available to help.
Yes. Well, and one thing that we've done is, and I get really excited about the collaboration, is because we had a couple that were a 2-family income, and the husband we actually sent to Minnesota to a treatment facility that we work with, and they needed rent support, and Salvation Army was able to help with the rent. Catholic Charities was able to help with the transportation to get them down to the airport. I believe the family bought their ticket and we paid for treatment. So you think about like all 4 of those.
Multi-layered.
Yeah, coming together to make it possible for this family to go. So we do try to problem solve in that way. If you think you're going to lose your housing, of like, okay, well, let's get in front of that. What's your barrier? And how can we support that? And again, lean on our partners and try to find that funding for you. So we've gotten really creative. That's why I never know how it's going to look. Because we pay deductibles to, we don't use insurance, to all of a sudden we're doing a combination of a bunch of things, and we've got this 4-month plan if the person's able to go that long. Otherwise, it's coming back to the area and doing aftercare. The follow-up care is so important, and I think keeps us unique. Our sobriety rate last year in 2023 was 75% of our clients stayed sober for a year or more, and 80% who stayed involved in our peer engagement program, which is beyond just our peer reaching out and staying connected. We have really fun events about twice a month. And we do yoga twice a week in Carbondale, free for anybody in any kind of recovery. We've got bowling coming up in December on the 7th. So we do really fun activities to get these sober people together to kind of teach them. And that's open to anybody in recovery. You don't even have to have worked with a way out or have any connection to a way out, but come to our sober events.
That's imperative to their sobriety, because often they come back and their social group is all using.
Yes.
So then to come back and have a new social group that's sober and loving that sober lifestyle.
Yes.
And getting connected, that's huge.
Yes.
It's
And
so
I just talked with a guy 3 days ago who, he's not really sure if he has a problem or needs to go to treatment, right? But he was like, where do you go if you don't want to use and you want to have fun? Yeah. So he's going to start coming to our sober events because he just wants to learn how to be sober and go bowling or go snowshoeing or, come on a hike or go to yoga and just like go do stuff with people who are trying to be healthy and who are trying to be sober. So that's another way that you could get connected to a way out and really use our services.
Do you post all the activities on your webpage?
Yes. Yeah, and we've been trying to put them in all the local calendars in the newspaper, getting better about that. But on our website under events, it should be. I don't have the bowling on there yet because that flyer just came out like 2 days ago.
Awesome. So what are some of those events? You do bowling, you mentioned snowshoeing, hiking.
Yeah, we've done everything from like creating vision boards. We have a mocktail event every summer. We do a big picnic every June, like a recovery celebration picnic. That's growing. I think this year we'll ask more of our nonprofit partners to come and share information for families. One of the gifts, or one of the offers, of a way out, other than just, being that kind of resource center for people with addictions, is community education. And so we have our symposium every fall, but then
which I just attended, and that was fantastic. I have to tell you, it was amazing.
Yes.
You draw some amazing speakers in.
Yes, I think that event has legs, so I do have to give that credit to Liz Meads, who started that years ago. And she always really put a lot of thought and a lot of her time into selecting those speakers. And so we've continued to do that and always had this goal of providing our community with nuggets of information. of how families are affected. What is the disease model? What is addiction? How does it affect the body? I think this last year it was a lot of neuroscience. This year it was a lot of trauma and kind of where addiction comes from.
Right.
And it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, which a lot of people don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then the picnic in June, I think, will turn into more of another community event, more of because we had a lot of families come last year saying, this was the easiest way for me to reach out. It's a very comfortable setting, come have a burger,
Right.
and meet us. And then hopefully having some more nonprofit partners with some addiction resources, because that collaboration, we don't care where you go, just go and connect with somebody. And if they need a way out services, we're hoping our partners will talk about us.
Right.
But if not, I think that there's a lot of great people doing great work in this community, and we're more than happy to just make sure they find somebody, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other programs you offer?
So the family program. So when A Way Out started in 2013, we were simply sending people to treatment. Then that grew to our year-long case management offer, because we thought, well, they're going to treatment, but then they're coming back and they're slipping and they're relapsing, and what's happening? And so then that was added. And then a long time ago, the families started to get involved. And so we started to educate the families. And so we offered sessions, up to three free sessions while the family member was in treatment.
Oh, nice.
And then educating about the disease, how to set healthy boundaries. And then we've now progressed into, we do the English speaking group on Tuesday nights. So anybody with a loved one who struggles with addiction can call A Way Out and join this group. And this is, again, it's run by Lenny Beaulieu, who has been working with families for over 30 years in the addiction field. And it's parents, it's siblings, it's spouses. As you can imagine, they're like, I'm living with this person, they don't want to go get help, what do I do? So that connection and finding other families who struggle and learning that love language, right? I don't like the word enabling, but how do you love with boundaries, and how do you help that person help themselves? That's a huge tool into living with someone who's struggling like this.
It is.
And then we have our Spanish-speaking group on Wednesday nights, ran by Delfina Huergo. All of our services are offered bilingually. She offers that group on Wednesday nights, again on Zoom, so that everybody can make it. No one has to drive. And again, spouses and a lot of parents in her group, just learning about the disease. And it doesn't matter if those loved ones ever reach out to A Way Out to become a client. We're just here to help those families learn. Most of the time they do. Most of the time it takes weeks or months, but we do hear from that loved one, and we are able to help in some way, get them into recovery support. Whether that's treatment or not, it doesn't matter. And then all of our services are bilingual, like I mentioned. Awesome. And I would say the most important addition is we have a new phone number, and you can go to our website and it's on there, which is at awayout.org. And this is a new individual who is a Spanish-speaking, culturally appropriate, just a human being to talk to in Spanish and to really answer questions. And again, we're doing a lot of navigating with that clientele and those individuals calling to understand barriers, who's doing what kind of work, where do I turn to for what, and then they're coming and they're saying, okay, now I want to help with substance use. Now I need help, now I'm willing to talk about it. So that trust building. The woman we have running that phone right now is Wendy, and they can call anytime. And so we're doing a little bit more case management on the front end with those Spanish-speaking individuals, which has been just so amazing. And
I think that's a population we underserve in these valleys.
Yeah.
And with hospitality, most of them are Spanish-speaking. So
yes.
When I do things, I try to find somebody to interpret so that they're included.
Yes.
I don't speak Spanish.
Yes.
But to have somebody who can do that and relate to them, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's been a huge success. It's been such an important offer. And, finding more and more resources in Spanish and making sure, that a Spanish line offered by a program for a 30-day treatment is a really hard idea to wrap a hard idea to wrap your head around, to go to a 30-day treatment that simply has a Spanish line for those individuals. And so we're reaching out to New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, really trying to find facilities in other parts of the country, just like we do in our other programs, to find those facilities and to keep it kind of real hush-hush for those individuals if they need to go and come back, and finding services online to keep it very confidential, and to make sure that they feel very comfortable getting the help.
Oh, I love to hear that. That's fairly new, right?
Yes.
That is awesome.
Yes.
So how can people in our general public, our audience, help?
Well, that's funny. There's a huge campaign right now, right? Colorado Gives Day is happening right now. And so that's a huge way. Our scholarships, our numbers have skyrocketed the last 2 years. And I do think that because Liz and I were together for about a year, and she trained me, and we had two of us in that director's role, I was really out in community a lot, kind of getting to know the landscape of the counties and what was out there and who was doing what kind of work where. And so the awareness grew about what we were doing and our offer to the community. And then simply the economy itself, right, and inflation and the housing crisis and what families are going through right now, the coping mechanism is substances, and it's going to continue to be. And there's so much work, and we are trying to partner with the campaigns on the anti-stigma, with the groups that are doing really amazing work throughout our region. But it's still going to be a coping mechanism and a medication for these people for a while. So our numbers are just insane. And there's also people, the really good thing, I think people get overwhelmed when I talk about how busy we are. But the point, and I think what I really want to leave the audience with today, is that there is a solution. And that's what we're offering. And there's so many people getting healthy. And there are so many people regaining their lives back. There are so many people climbing out of those addictions and that substance use disorder, that disease, and getting help for their co-occurring mental health issues, and really becoming functioning members of our community again.
And it heals families. If we can heal somebody who has drug and alcohol issues, the whole family has those issues.
Yes.
So we can heal them. There's a lot of hope.
Yes.
So I'd like to finish again with you just saying about your success rates in sobriety.
So our success rates, we've got 75% of our clients remain sober for a year or more, which is incredible. The national average is around 40%. And it ties into our family work, it ties into our peer offer, staying really connected, keeping them engaged, and then making sure those families understand not only the disease, but the healing and the journey of healing, and helping those individuals identify what they too need to heal from and what they are going through, and making sure they're connected to the right resources. With about 3 sessions with Beth Berkeley, our family program director, she can usually, of course we'll do more if need be. A way out's very flexible. But our success rates are because we heal the family, we stay in touch, and
Well, I'm so glad that you came today, and I'm glad that you're here. And I would tell anybody, if you have drug and alcohol issues, please call A Way Out.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us today, and I'd like to sign off by wishing you health, healing, and happiness.